Well, hello there, my friend. You are listening to the DIY Marketing School podcast. I am your host and your marketing coach, Melanie Diane Howe. Today, I'm changing it up. Today, I'm telling you what not to do on social media. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about strategies and what works on social media and what works in our marketing and what we should be doing. But sometimes it's equally as important to talk about what we should not be doing. So today, that's actually what I'm going to cover in this episode. I'm going to cover a few things that I want to make sure that you just know are not necessarily a good idea. And if you've been doing these things, hopefully you'll now think about them differently. And then maybe you're new to social media or you're just still kind of getting your feet wet in that world of business, and this will help you now prevent making mistakes that could be detrimental to your brand or even you as an individual. So just going to go through a few of these things. Some of them may feel obvious, some of them may not, but they're important to cover because I got to be honest, I see it all the time. So again, I would not be talking about this if I didn't see it as an issue. Every time I record an episode, I'm either recording something and giving you tips about things that I get asked about all the time, or things that I find myself teaching people or coaching people with, or even just there are times I make observations about how everyone is using social media, and I either see a bunch of people not doing things that I want them to do, or like in this case, I see people doing things that I want them to stop doing. So these are realities in the world that we live in. So the first thing that I want to make sure that you avoid doing is bad-mouthing others. Now, this, again, is going to sound somewhat obvious, but I do think that sometimes we badmouth others in a passive-aggressive way. So I think most people know that, you shouldn't be bad-mouthing people on social media or calling people out or, getting all nasty directly about people. Although, again, I see it all the time. Just go to the news media pages and look at the comments. But, this is really important, not only as your business, but also just as an individual and on your personal profile. Sometimes we can get into discussions in the comments of other people's posts, especially if they're somewhat controversial. But I just want to make sure that you avoid these conversations, especially avoid bad-mouthing anyone. Now, a couple of other examples I want you to think about. I actually see businesses, especially small businesses sometimes, they will actually get on their page and they will talk about a particular experience that they had with a customer, a challenging customer. Whether the customer was in the right or the wrong, I don't really care, but they will actually create a post and they will talk about a bad experience with a customer. They won't name names necessarily, but they will actually, just kind of go into this tangent about how this experience with the customer was not pleasant for them as a business, whether it be because the customer came in and was just nasty or just downright rude or just completely impossible to work with, or that customer came in and just was confused and was just, not, I don't know, just being ridiculous, I guess, which, hey, people can be ridiculous. I mean, there are plenty of times where the customer is not right. I mean, we know this. However, social media is not a place for you to talk about this. And I find in these situations, I think sometimes people do this because they're in a way trying to, I guess, get back at that person because maybe they think they're going to see that post, or they just need to vent. And I got to tell you, social media is not a place to vent about people, especially customers. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't make you look good. It's not, I think the other reason that businesses do this sometimes is because they want to get people to kind of rally behind them after a bad situation. And I understand that, and I understand that desire. But again, I just got to say, 9 times out of 10, this tactic is not going to serve you well. And somebody's going to take it the wrong way. You're going to come off as kind of an aggressive, negative business. And the world does not have room for negativity anymore. So I want to make sure that you just avoid these situations. So as a good reminder, it is never a good idea to badmouth anyone, whether it be a customer, another business. That's the other example I see a lot is there will be businesses that will badmouth other businesses, either aggressively or passive aggressively. Just don't do this. We want to avoid this at all costs in any situation. If you need to have a direct conversation with somebody because you've experienced something and you just want to make sure people are aware of it, that is a actual conversation you need to have, not on digital media at all. So first one, don't badmouth others. The next thing that we should avoid is on our business pages. We need to remember that the business is business, right? And I want you to make sure you're not getting too personal on your business pages. So this is kind of a slippery slope. So this one's a little tricky, but it's just something I want you to be thoughtful of. I want you to always make sure that you're putting your business first, you're putting your profession first, and that brand, whatever that brand is, whatever your tone of voice, whatever your brand position is, that needs to come first. There may be things going on in your personal life. There may be, maybe amazing things going on in your personal life. There's a time and a place for that too. But what I often see sometimes is businesses they'll be a little bit too transparent, where sometimes I'm literally looking at their business page and I'm thinking, is this their business page or is this their personal profile? So I want you to just be a little bit cautious about it. You can go over the top when it comes to sharing personal details. Now, I'm not going to sit here and give you a formula. There is no formula, but there are some businesses that are a little bit more intimate. Your service level might be a little bit more on that intimate level. In that case, it may be more appropriate for you to be a little bit more showing that personal side of you. Other times, you're going to be on the other side of the spectrum. There's businesses that are like really super professional, banks, legal people, just those type corporate, entities. You probably don't have a lot of room to be sharing details about, whatever's going on in your personal life. So, but I do find that sometimes people will use their business pages to go a little too personal. Now, again, I do think it's okay to share some behind the scenes, and I do want you to put yourself out there because, if people can get to know you better, then they can relate to you, and it is going to make business that much more better or more intimate, especially if you're in a consulting or any kind of service level. Now, the biggest thing here that I'll tell you is that if you're going through some struggles as a business and, even if your audience is maybe going to learn from those struggles, I want you to be really careful about sharing that information while you're going through the struggle. And this is probably an area where I see people cross that personal line a little bit too much. Again, I actually heard someone say this recently, and I'm going to butcher this quote, so I'm actually just going to kind of describe it. They essentially used it as, don't tell me about your wounds as they're like bleeding. Instead, get through it, heal up, and then tell me about your scars instead. So what that really means is that, maybe you're going through some struggles with your business. Maybe it's financially that you're going through some struggles in your business. Maybe you're really struggling to get people in the door and you're just, you're kind of going a little too far on your platforms about this. Well, that's basically you talking about the pain and the struggles you're going through as you're going through it. Instead, the contrary would be, get through that, find some ways to reach out to people, find some ways to spread the word, let people know, on a person, on a non-media level, that this is a struggle. And maybe you can make one little post about it, but don't be talking about it all the time. And then after you get through that struggle, then you can share that story and be like, hey, there was this one season where we were really struggling and we thought we were going to have to close the doors, and here's what we did, and here's how we overcame that, and here's what we learned from that. That's an example of you sharing your scars instead of talking about the wounds as they are healing and as they are bleeding in the moment. So that's kind of an analogy that I heard recently that I thought was really great. And I think I've actually heard that analogy a couple of times, and I thought it fits really well. So anyway, all right, so moving on to the next one. Oh man, this one's a big one. This one is a big one. The other thing that I want you to avoid is just talking about sensitive topics with your business pages. And I'm going to go ahead and say this 98% of the time applies to your personal pages too. The two big ones here are anything political and anything religious. The reason being you can be passionate. I mean, you can have very, very passionate feelings about Christianity or any of those, religious topics. You can be super passionate about politics for sure, but social media is not the best place for you to go all crazy and voice those opinions, especially, and I am emphasizing especially by saying especially, your business pages. That you are opening up a can of worms that I'm telling you don't want to open up. Again, you can have personal opinions and you can be very passionate about these things, but unless your business is in the business of politics or religion, that stuff does not belong in your social media content or any of your marketing content. So let's not use our business platforms as a platform to get on a soapbox and talk about the sensitive issues and topics in the world that you are passionate about, unless your business is absolutely in that business. So, if you're a Christian bookstore, you're probably going to talk about religion. If you are a political analyst, consultant, or something, or a political marketing person, you might be talking about politics, right? There also may be some situations in your business where policy may have massive effects on your business. It is maybe okay sometimes to just be a part of the conversation. But again, I want you to be very cautious because you are opening yourself up to having to deal with a lot of jerks, basically. People they are more aggressive. They are bigger jerks when it comes to typing comments in social media because they can hide behind their computer or they can hide behind their phone, and people tend to get even nastier. So these conversations are best had offline. And so I want you to honestly, almost 9.9999999 times out of 10, just completely avoid this altogether. And when you feel a need to do it, I want you to sit on it. I want you to wait. And I don't want you to post right away when you're emotional about something. So, and again, you need to really, really, really make a determination that does your business have a role in this world? And does your business page need to be, creating content that is affected or is around politics and religion or any other sensitive topic? So I want you to be very cautious about it. And again, by default, just don't do it. Just by default, don't do it. I'm going to say almost all of you listening should never do this. You should just never do it. There may be a rare instance where you are in a business where it matters, but again, most of you just don't do it. Okay. And this goes for your own content, but it also goes for just commenting on other people's stuff. Just stay out of it. Just stay out of it. Okay. Next one. The next one I've got here is, it's kind of weird. I see this happen still, and I'm surprised, but don't copy and paste other people's content. I see this in certain industries where people are, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I see it in the direct marketing world. I am a former direct marketer, network marketer, MLM, whatever you want to call it. And I love the business model. I think it's an amazing opportunity for people to just do some really cool and really wonderful things, not only for themselves, but also in ways to help others. I love network marketing. I do love that industry. But I want to just say that what happens in those typically in those networks is that it's a network. It's a network of content. And, we see what somebody else does and it's like, oh, that's a brilliant idea. I love it. And we copy and we paste it. Now, if it's something promotional or kind of commercial-ish, then that's probably not a terrible thing. I will get back to a point about that in a second, why you may want to still reconsider copying and pasting content, even if it's kind of just promotional. But the biggest no-no is copying and pasting somebody's personal opinion about something, somebody's story, or what somebody's sharing about their passion for the business or something else. And you just kind of take word for word what they said, and you're basically sharing the same thing. That, unfortunately, does two things. One, it's a possibility that someone's going to see that same post from somebody else, because by now it's going that exact same content is going viral in a way within your network. And it's possible that someone's going to see it from somebody else. And so they're not going to be sure where that originated. And it's going to just kind of create a bit of a inauthentic feeling for people. And then the other thing it's going to do is it's not your real story. So you may feel the same way, that person feels. And you may be like, man, I just couldn't say it better myself. I'm just going to use what they said. Well, I get it. I want you to go ahead and be inspired by what they're saying, but then you've got to make it your own. You've got to take that content, change it to your own version, your own story, because that's just going to come off so much better, and it's going to come off a lot more authentic. And you may even find that the more you do this, the better you get at formulating your own story. And maybe you're the one who's creating an original piece of content that other people are getting inspired by. But we need to not copy and paste people's content. The same goes for if you see something not in the network marketing world. Maybe you're in business where, you have a retail store, or you're an interior designer, or you're a yoga instructor, and you see other people creating this content. Just be careful on copying and pasting, even if you feel like, well, gosh, this person's in California. No one in my network is going to see this. Well, here's what's going to happen. There's a couple things. The algorithms, and this goes back to my point that I was going to circle back to. If you copy and paste word for word what somebody else says, the algorithms actually can pick up on that, and they can squash your post. They can blackball you. They know it's not original content. Here's the deal. These algorithms are looking for authenticity. They're looking for original stuff. They don't want to just be spreading and repeating the same stuff. So if you're copying and pasting these words, the algorithms can actually pick up on that, know it, and they can either flag your account, and you can actually get what's called, some people call it blacklisted, but you can go into what's called jail, like social media jail, where they will actually lock out your account for doing that. And then other things that will happen is they will squash your reach, your organic reach. And again, if you don't know what I mean by the algorithms, go back to episode 4 of this podcast. I talk about the algorithm. So that's the other reason you don't want to be copying and pasting. We want to be careful about it. It's kind of just bad practice anyway. I want you to try to come up with your own stuff. You can be inspired by somebody else's content, but create your own, use your own image, and use your own words. And it's going to come off that much more authentic, because it truly is that much more authentic. Okay, so last one, this is the 5th one I wanted to talk about what you should not be doing on social media, is don't make it all about you, okay? And this is kind of like somewhat of an all-encompassing, it's just a mindset that I want you to be thinking about. And honestly, I think what happens is that people don't realize they're doing this. And so I don't think anyone intentionally goes out there and is just trying to intentionally showboat and make everything about them. I think what happens is they have no idea they're doing it. And next thing you know, it's people are observing it and seeing it. So here are some things that would be you making it all about you. Let's say you're in some Facebook groups, some support groups, or some learning groups, and you are never in there. You're never answering questions. You're never sharing your feedback on anyone else's posts. You're never, joining the conversation. You're never celebrating wins with people, except when you have a need or you have a question, you go in there and you post the question. And you expect all these people in the group to help you. But have you been actually being a part of the group? Have you been engaged in the group? Have you been helping others? If you haven't, this is you kind of taking from the group. I always say you should always give more than you take when it comes to being a part of communities and groups. So that's one way you're making it about you. Another way is that you're not very active on social media, except for when you have something to show off. And this goes for business and personal pages. But, I see a lot of people where they're not really that active, except for when they donate to a charity, or when their kids get an award, or when they get an award, or when they are volunteering, or when they're attending an event, or when they're at some really fancy concert, or when they're with somebody famous. But there's never anything else. And so that's kind of just showboating all the time. And so that's making it all about you again, right? And so I just want you to be kind of careful about that. The biggest thing is just being engaged in comments and being engaged with other people, being a part of the conversation. And then, just again, not adding value. And that kind of goes back to just the only time you're posting is when you have something to brag about, sell, or promote, or show off. So you need to be making sure that you're adding value in some way, shape, or form. in your social media content. And I mean, 100%. Don't just do it when you need something. Don't just post when you need something or when you want to show something off. So again, making it all about you is never a good thing. Okay, so just a really quick recap on these items, these things that we should not do on social media. The first one I talked about was bad-mouthing others, either passively or aggressively. And the second thing I talked about was let's try not to get too personal, especially on our business pages. Make sure that we are keeping our brand consistent, on our professional pages for sure. And then the other thing I talked about was getting too political, too religious, talking about politics or religion or sensitive topics, especially on your business pages. We should just avoid it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it unless you're in the business that matters. And then the fourth thing I talked about was copying and pasting other people's content verbatim. We don't want to do that at all. It's okay to look at somebody's stuff, be inspired by it, and model after them, or make it your own. But let's just avoid that altogether. And when it comes to copying and pasting, and then lastly, it was making it all about you. So especially when you're in communities and Facebook groups, this is a big area for me. I want you to make sure that you are engaged in that group and not just posting in there when you need something from the community. Make sure that if you're going to ask the community to help you and support you, that you're doing the same for others in there as well. And then of course, in your content, make sure you're adding value and not just posting when you're showing something off or bragging about something or selling something. So there you guys have it. So those are 5 areas that I want to make sure that you are avoiding. Again, I focus a lot on what you should be doing and what I want you to be doing in social media. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about some things that I want you to not do on social media. So just avoid these things altogether. They are not going to serve you in the long run for sure. And again, some of them might seem obvious, but I keep seeing people doing these things all the time. Big businesses, medium businesses, small businesses. There are people making these mistakes out there and making the world a little bit harder for them in regards to their profession and their business. So I thought it was important to cover this topic. So you guys, that's what I got for you today. I hope that you will tune in next time, and whatever you're doing, I hope you make it great. Make today a wonderful day. Go do something awesome for somebody else. And just always remember that you have value and you have gifts. And I want you to always put yourself out there, even when you're scared. And hopefully these tips about what not to do will help you feel that much more confident about knowing that you can get yourself out there and share your gifts with the world. So that's what I got. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Go be awesome.